2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
What is true femininity?
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brandon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it. All right, before we get into that question, quick review here. So it says, so much affirmation, empathy, and edifying. It's nice to know I'm not crazy and I can and will get through the pain. Lots of education and most of all connection. So thank you. That's
awesome.
Really nice. So that's what we want to do. We want to know that we want you to know there's hope. You can get through pain, and just kind of be a support as you do that. So, and give any tidbits of knowledge, information, and truth to help you through it. So it's good to hear that's what's happening. So
thank you for the review. We appreciate those things. So Brandon, I'm going to introduce our guest today. We've got an awesome guest on today with some really good questions. And these questions were sparked from an episode that we had 2 weeks ago on, my rant about my pet peeve and masculinity. And so Rachel is here with us today, and she had some questions that kind of spun off of that topic. So for the people who are listening to this episode, you may want to go back and listen to the other episode. But Rachel, glad to have you with us. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you just jump in and kind of introduce why you're here, what questions you want to have answered, and basically how you came to the questions.
Sure, thanks. Well, when I listened to the masculinity podcast, I was really impressed, and quite honestly, it was a little bit triggering, I'm not gonna lie, because I recognized within myself that when the topic of femininity came up, that it kind of hit me a little bit sideways. That word has always been a little bit triggering. I just really don't know what to do with it. It's layered, I think, for me, and I think for a lot of women. I don't know if it's the definition itself or if it's what I picked up along the way in my life that's
right.
kind of made me uneasy with that topic in general. And so I think what my question boils down to is, like, what is true femininity? Is it safe? And how do I nurture it in my life? I think those are some of the primary questions I am seeking. For me, the way I process is I have a difficult time doing anything about something that I can't really wrap my mind around. It's kind of like name it to tame it. And right now I feel stuck in not being able to even name what's going on. It feels like it's swirling. Like I don't understand what femininity is. And a lot of probably the agreements that I picked up along the way are kind of clouding that even more.
Rachel, can I start answering that question by kind of throwing it back at you and asking you? I just want to, what is your understanding of femininity? Like when you think of, you know, empowering your femininity or like really embracing that, like what you say it's convoluted and kind of confusing. What is it? Like if you were to say what femininity is, what would you say?
Do you want to know the truth?
Yes.
Like what
Yeah.
I actually like see femininity as?
Yeah.
And I might get stoned for this. But this is the truth. This is how I feel, and this is what I picked up in my life. I see femininity as superficial. I see femininity as weak. I see femininity as very risky. I see femininity as and I guess and I think that's where I get confused about what is the definition of it, because I think it's not clearly defined. And so if you give me a definition, then maybe I can wrap my mind around it in a different way. But when I think about femininity, I've been told like throughout my life directly in certain situations, like if you want to make it, like I remember being in a professor's office. I was a graduate student and I was a research assistant for my professor, and my friend walked in and she wanted a prestigious position in a New York company. And the professor had worked there. And she looked at my friend and she said, "You look like," and used an expletive. She's like, "You need to cut your hair. You need to," she said, "This is a white man's world. And your goal is to look as neutral as possible." And the next day I saw my friend, her hair was cut and she got the position. And it's just those types of things that lead me to believe that your femininity, you can't really embrace it because it will, it won't allow you to progress.
Right. And so I want to keep asking you, where did that come from? Right. So you had that experience in college. That's a good example. But I imagine that this started long before that, where basically you were taught, what I'm hearing is you were taught that it's a man's world. The more masculine you are, the more you're going to thrive. The more feminine you are, the more you're going to like struggle. And femininity is superficial and weak and those things. I appreciate your honesty because I think a lot of people feel the same way, Rachel. But where, like, did that happen? Did those messages start coming to you at a really, really young age? Like, where did that come from?
Well, I grew up, I'm the only girl in my family. I have 4 brothers. So I grew up
Very masculine home.
Yeah, and I never was told that I couldn't do something because I was a girl. Like it was pretty much like I could do whatever I wanted. Like there was plenty of space for that. But when a significant story that just has seared in me was when I was in junior high. I was in an algebra class, and my algebra teacher, I did well, and he accused me of cheating. He said that girls can't do math.
Wow.
And so he would move me to the front of the room so he could watch me. Well, I still did well. And for the exams, for the test, he would move me right by his desk so he could watch me, because he said girls can't do math. And I did well on all the tests, but at the end of the quarter, he gave me an A-. Well, I was livid. And I had saved all my tests and my assignments, and I took them to the counselor and I said, I want out. I want my grade changed, and I want to be out of this classroom. And they did both. I sat there for 4 hours. because I wasn't going to leave until he did it.
Good for
Um,
you.
and but those are the messages, like, you know, that I was sent.
But the subtle message there is what? I mean, the subtle message there is like, you know, if you're a woman, you're not supposed to be like smart, especially at math, right?
Right.
That's the subtle message there.
It didn't
Okay.
feel that subtle.
Yeah, I bet.
It's
Yeah.
not subtle.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm kind of trying to just flush out like where these messages have come from and what are the messages. Um, uh, do we live? I want to ask you guys a question, both Tyler, Rachel. Do we live in a man's world? Do we live in kind of a patriarchal system, man's world? What would you say?
I think it depends on which aspect of the world you're looking at.
Okay.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that, Rachel?
Well, I think for me, I have been a professional, worked professionally, and I felt like I really had to step into more of a masculine role in those situations. Whereas I've chosen to be a stay-at-home mom for the past few years, and I feel like in that way, I have been able to, that it doesn't feel like the white man's world that it did when I had to daily prove myself.
Huh. But when you were out there in the world at the workplace, it felt more so that way.
Oh, definitely. Like, I remember when I first started, one of the partners, he came to me and said, stick to the transactional work and leave the litigation for the big boys. Direct
Wow.
quote.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask you guys some questions. So a man comes in assertive to work and just like kind of rolling some heads and getting stuff done. How is he viewed?
He's viewed as masculine.
Good for him. That's a boss
Yeah.
right there. A woman comes in assertive, kind of rolling some heads and getting stuff done. How is she viewed?
I can tell you how she's viewed because I've been there. And
Okay.
even when I tone it down, even if I'm like direct with people, I happen to be on the school board here where I live. And when I show up and I am direct, I've had people say, wow, you're over the top.
Tone it down.
And I'm like,
you're over the top.
I'm probably talking with the same tone that I'm talking right now. I'm not talking like placidly or delicately, just like straightforward talk. And I've actually been pulled aside and said, you know, do you realize how you're coming across? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right. Like basically trying to tone you down, right? A woman being out there, like, you know, she's a bitch. She's way over the top. She's assertive. She needs to kind of shut up. And yeah, think about another way to look at how we're in a man's world is sex. I mean, a man who, let's say a man goes out and gets a bunch of girls, right? You know, he's kind of viewed as like, wow, like good for him. Like, look at him go, right?
Conquest.
Yeah. A woman goes out and has sex with a bunch of guys. How is she viewed? I mean, there's double standard everywhere. Sex, you can really see it. You know, a man is in our thinking, men, it's good for men to have pleasure and be sexual, and you know, but a woman, like, we hardly ever talk about a vagina or a clitoris because like we don't go there. But a man really being sexual is okay. I don't treat very many women sex addicts because there's so much shame around women being sexual. So it's not just sex. It's everything. I think women are being attacked and told to just conform into this man's world. And so Rachel, I can see where these beliefs that you have are, and it's like, okay, if I want to be feminine and fit into this man's world, then I need to become superficial and be very just fit into that world, and that's what femininity is. And I would argue that it's anything, like real true femininity is anything but what you believe that it is. Go ahead, Tyler.
Can I step in here too for a second, Brandon? I think that that's what you're painting is part of what the problem is here, is that we do live in, I mean, the workplace, you could say the workplace by and large is a masculine place. Like, and I don't mean that like that women can't succeed there, but they have to put on their masculine to be successful in the workplace in many places, right? And so, but the problem with this is that we live in a world where even the feminists, in order to fight for women, have to show up masculine, which means that they're not actually fighting for femininity a lot of the time. They don't understand the benefits and the blessings of what it means to actually be feminine, because they're so busy fighting to survive in the masculine parts of the world. Does that make sense? And so every woman who's been mistreated, excuse me, the same way that Rachel has, is they feel like the answer has to be that I have to shun anything that could be seen as feminine, because it's going to mean that I'm weak, that it's going to mean that it's superficial, that it's going to mean that it's unstable or insecure. And a lot of people have had experiences where there's actually been pain, so it makes sense that those feelings are there, right? I mean, it totally makes sense why Rachel is showing up and saying, like, as soon as you guys started talking about masculinity, and I'm over here going like, uh-oh, like, what is femininity then? Because I have this pushback on it. Well, it makes sense, but the answer isn't to push back on it in order to be more masculine. The answer is to understand how masculine and feminine actually interplay together in a beautiful sort of complementary way, when it's not done in a coercive way, like you've experienced.
Yeah. We like it's not masculinity versus femininity. It's like masculinity will actually empower and embrace femininity. There's a yin and yang. There's masculinity helps femininity come out, and femininity helps masculinity come out. And so that's what that polarity is. And when it's like there's a big difference, Rachel, I think, and tell me what you think about this. There's a big difference between like masculinity, healthy masculinity, and patriarchy, this dominion, this power and control systems. That to me isn't real masculinity. That's patriarchy, and it actually that does attack femininity. That does break it down and send all these messages about it that it's actually not good. What do you think about that, Rachel?
I agree. I think that's true.
So then what is femininity? Tyler, answer her question. It's like one of my favorite topics.
I know, Brandon. As soon as I introduced the topic today, Brandon was like, "Yes, I love this topic. Like, this is a great topic." So, yes. So what is femininity? Well, I think, Brandon, you brought that up a couple of weeks ago when we did talk about it, but you didn't explain it as much with your handout that you showed on the different sides of things, right? Yeah. Femininity also, and Rachel, just tell me what your response is. Tell me what your emotional response is to these words as it relates to whether or not it fits for femininity. Femininity is acceptance. Femininity is receiving. Femininity is creation. Femininity is connection. What's your response to those words?
I can live with those words.
Would say that one more time.
I can live with those words. They're good words.
Do they could they fit under the idea of what it means to be feminine?
Sure, but I guess I get confused because I see that as part of a wholehearted living on both sides, whether you're masculine or feminine. And I just don't see a distinction. Maybe that's where I'm confused, because I believe that men need connection just as much as women.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Okay. So let me pause for a minute, and I'm going to back up to a concept that I was taught as it related to a principle called mindfulness, but I promise I'll bring it back into feminine, masculine here. I was taught the concept of something called the wise mind. And the wise mind idea says that we as human beings operate best when we are walking what's called the middle path. And the middle path is the fusion between two ways of seeing the world and filtering information. And on one hand, one of those filters that we have as human beings is we have what's called the rational mind. The rational mind does the thinking, it does the logic. It sounds like you're really strong with your own rational mind in terms of mathematics and things. You've excelled at those things. The rational mind looks for solutions. It's goal-oriented. It's organized. It's driven. The other mind, so to speak, that has to be balanced is called the emotional mind. And the emotional mind is everything that happens that allows us to actually find meaning in the world that we're living in or in the experiences that we're having. And the emotionally minded person, their main drive is connection. Their main drive is relationship. Their main drive is, the emotional mind is responsible for impulses and motivation. And those things are impermanent and they're not stable, but they're really valuable and very important. Well, when I teach this concept to a group of people or to a client, almost always, and these are just in general terms, so it's not always, because we all have this, we can fall somewhere along the dispersion of these scales, but almost always I say, what's wrong with the rational mind left to its own devices? And they'll say, well, it can make mistakes and it feels cold and it feels robotic. And then I say, what's wrong with the emotional mind? And the emotional mind says, well, it's erratic and it's impulsive and it feels kind of crazy and it's a little bit unstable. And then if I take it a step further, I say, do you know anybody who would fall to one side or the other a lot of the time? Almost always when I'm working with a couple, the wife will say, oh man, he is totally robotic. He's cold. He won't interact with me. He sees everything is a means to an end. And then I'll turn around and he'll say, she's totally just like erratic. I can't tell where she's at all the time. I don't know what she's feeling. I don't know what she's thinking. Like I can't get anything right because there's no consistency. And so if you look at it in that context, the wise mind says, I need the fusion of both. I need the rational mind and the emotional mind. And because I'm a man doesn't mean I can't be in touch with feminine things. And because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't be in touch with masculine things. But by and large, if we were to take the general population, most women would lean towards the emotional mind and work on bringing the rational mind into being wise-minded. And men would have to be focused on learning how to be more in touch with their emotions and more expressive with their emotions and more understanding with what those emotions are actually telling them, because they lean towards this kind of compartmentalized way of seeing and viewing the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And can I add this part? When you're describing the emotional mind, those are some of the pieces, that erratic, the instability, all of that crazy making, that I personally have women's issues too. Like that's what turns me off about women, because they are unstable. Like I don't know, I would rather walk into a room full of men than a room full of women, because I can figure out the men better than I can figure out the women, because they are like a little bit erratic. You have to walk on eggshells a little bit more. They're not as straightforward. Like, to me, that's confusing.
Rachel, I can feel your rejection and resistance to femininity. Like I can sense it. I can really feel it.
Right? It's a problem.
Yeah. And what's interesting, like if we were to dig in with you a little bit, like not all men are masculine and not all women are feminine. Sometimes women are more masculine and men are more feminine. It's rare. It's very rare. And oftentimes what I've seen sometimes with that is women have kind of overcompensated, or they're trying to control some things, or scared of something, so they turn into the masculine, but deep down in their essence they're feminine, but they've kind of taken on the role of, depending on the marriage that they're in or the workplace that they're in, of the masculine. But what I am feeling from you, Rachel, is this resistance to femininity. And I want to talk about this erratic behavior. You know, we think of the woman as this kind of, you know, uncontrolled, erratic, irrational thing, you know. And a couple things about that. I actually think there's some truth there. That you know, women cycle emotionally. We know that. And but it's very important. You know, the wind needs to kind of kick up the seeds a little bit sometimes, so that things can grow. And it's not just consistency, but it's change. Femininity is good for creating that change. Femininity is really good for there's cycles in femininity where there's life and there's just like creation, and then there's death and there's rest. And the feminine energy shows those cycles, where masculinity is more just kind of consistent. And I was on a hike this morning, and I walked through a part of the mountain that got burned last month. And it was like I was looking at all the little green trees growing underneath the dead trees. And without that fire, that all those new trees wouldn't be growing. And so, yes, you look at it, if you judge it and say that's bad, it shouldn't be that way, because we're living in a man's world, and you're not going to be effective at work. You're not going to be you know, if you have a bad day and you don't want to talk to anyone, then you just see that as bad. But if you shift your perspective and really see that those cycles of femininity and those creative winds that go, that's what creates human beings. That's what makes it possible for like the hormones and all of those things to come and create. And so it's a beautiful, wonderful, important thing. But yeah, does it cause some emotion? Does it cause some friction and some change? It does, right? So what do you think about that, Rachel?
I think it's true. I think all of what you said is true. It's interesting, and I don't know what to do with it.
I think part of what you're bringing up, Brandon, is that you just referenced a forest fire to illustrate new growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of us right now would agree that nobody should go set a forest fire right now. So, and what I'm getting at with that is that we live in a world, and this is maybe the masculine part of the world. We live in a world where we're always looking for certainty and stability and that steadiness that you referenced with the masculine side of things, because change in and of itself, because that chaos that comes in a forest fire, it's that lack of stability can lead to vulnerability, which can cause a lot of problems in our life, especially as it relates. You can see why someone like Rachel would say, man, I can't.
But hang on, I want to ask Rachel this. So like, let's say my wife is just having one of those days, right? Bad day for no reason at all, and she just kind of hates me a little bit. If I go and I reject her femininity and I'm like, that's stupid, you shouldn't be feeling that way, like, get over it, like, buck up, how's that going to go for me?
Well, you're not going to earn any brownie points. You're going to.
You're going to be sleeping at my house.
Hey,
Yeah.
come on, like, get better. But you're fine. You're fine. What you're feeling isn't valid. Here's the logic of it. Here's the truth. Get over it. That's not going to be awesome, right?
Right.
So if I reject her femininity and her emotions and what she's feeling, that's not going to work for our polarity and our connection. If I see that as important, an important part of her and who she is, an important part of her as a mother, her as a human, then I can go home and she can have one of those days and I'm not going to freak out. I'm going to actually be there for her. I can stay steady. I can stay grounded while she's not steady or not grounded. And I can actually be grateful for her femininity. And what's gonna happen when I show up in that kind of masculine energy with her feminine energy? What do you think will happen, Rachel?
Well, I know because my husband's really good at this.
Good for him.
He's good. When I'm acting my worst and he shows up in his best, I have nothing but pure gratitude for him because I know that he sees who I truly am rather than what my actions are at that moment.
But Rachel, is when you say you're acting your worst, already negative connotation, right? But if you're having one of those days, maybe it's not bad. Maybe it's okay that your spirit, your body is telling you, hey, take a break, get some distance, take some space from people. And what I'm saying is going as far to accept the feminine to say, yes, you can be feminine. It's okay. It's not bad in any way, right? Am I going too far there, Rachel?
I don't know if it's too far. I think in this scenario it's not too far.
Okay.
I think in other scenarios, I've gotten burned severely by women,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been wounded by them. And so for me, yes, it goes too far because I can't accept the behaviors that I can't tolerate the behaviors they provided. And so in those instances, no, I don't think they should be accepted. I can't ride that wave with them.
Question, were you burned by women or burned by femininity?
Burned by women, and I associate the two.
That's what I bet you've been burned by men some too in your life.
Sure.
Right? But you associate those negative experiences with their femininity, right?
Well, because it's all it's the erratic behavior. It's the I don't know what to expect. It's the confusion of what am I going to come home to when I open up that door? Like,
I want to read some of the attributes of femininity, because femininity is not dishonesty. It's not being fake. It's not being shame-based. Like, I think, yeah, women and femininity is torn down so much that it feels like femininity and shame are just like best buddies, but they're not. It's femininity isn't backbiting or gossip or anything like that. Femininity is about radiance. It's about flow, and it's about trusting your gut and having intuition. It is about nurturing and patience. Femininity is tough, perseverance, strength, bear children and tolerate pain. Women make fun of men because men get their man colds, because women can endure. Those are the attributes of femininity. It's not this petty, just obnoxious annoyingness of what women are, right? And the things that I just listed, our world needs so much more of. We need it so badly. And if women reject their femininity, they'll continue to stay muted, or they'll continue to try to become masculine, and then we're stuck in the same cycles that we're in. So
Rachel,
go ahead.
Rachel, I have another question / thought for you as you're kind of talking, and obviously there is this pushback on this idea of femininity based off of your past experiences. The things that Brannon just listed off, if you were to sit and let those things fall into your soul, how many of those things do you resonate with as things that are valuable and precious to you and that are a part of you?
Absolutely. I
All of
am
them?
on board with all of them. And I
Okay.
actually really appreciate the clarity between the distance between the gossiping and the backbiting and all of that versus like, these are the cores of femininity. I think that's what's missing in the conversation is
Yes.
Yeah, and I wonder what the price is that you may have to pay when you internally feel and know that all the things that Brannon just read off are a part of your makeup, and yet there's this belief that somehow those things must mean, what were the words you used? That must mean superficial and weak. Like what's the price that gets paid?
the price that gets paid, and I think that's why I've been wrestling with it, is that I am not truly developed as a person, that there's something missing within inside me, that I'm negating a part of who I am, the true part of who I am.
Exactly. And that true part of who you are is trying to be stifled and shut down. And the way that it often gets shut down is through shame. And so now here I am going like, the inside of me knows that I feel these things, that these are things are precious to me, that it's kind of built into my DNA, but I'm associating these things with weakness and instability. And so if I try to shut them down, I'm in trouble. If I embrace them, that means that I'm superficial and weak. So what I've got myself into is what we call a double bind, where no matter which way I turn, I'm stuck. Unless there's a different way to look at this picture, unless there's a different way to view those things inside of me, and to learn to embrace those things as necessary, as imperative, instead of superficial and weak.
I think that's easy to say, Tyler, and we're talking about therapy work here, right? Like
Yeah.
we're talking about there's reasons. Rachel, I really appreciate what you just said. Like you may be missing out some on life, on things that could happen if you were to embrace your femininity. But there's reasons why you're rejecting it, and it's things you've been taught. It's probably trauma that you've had. You've learned how to fall into this safe place of probably being more masculine than you really truly are, but it's safe there. And so to face some of those fears or traumas or whatever it is, that will make it possible for you to open up and really step into more of your femininity. One thing. Oh, go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to add to that, and then you keep going, Brandon. And it's interesting that what you're saying is that here, part of how I'm going to learn to embrace my femininity is to actually embody. One of the biggest tools that you would learn if you're going to a therapist is how to practice self-compassion, which by nature would fall under the category of feminine. I'm going to have to learn how to practice that nurturing part of myself towards myself.
Right.
Right.
Rachel, any last thoughts, questions?
I don't know. I appreciate just the definition. I think I've gotten stuck on, and it's layered because I think I missed what the true definition is. And when you're not defining something correctly, then it's convoluted and confusing.
Yeah, I did with one of my women's groups. I would challenge you, Rachel. With one of my women's groups, I just challenged them. I said, hey, just be feminine like this week. Just whatever it is, and come back and report on that. And they came back, my women's group. It was interesting because a lot of them came back like, that was an awesome activity. I loved it. And they talked about different things that they did. Like, so one thing about masculinity, masculinity is results oriented, where femininity is experience oriented. So it's much more experiential. And that's why like most like interior designers are women, because it's the experience of that room. So like one woman, she remodeled her bedroom that week. Another woman, she had a really strong feeling in her gut. Her intuition was telling her to do something. She followed through with it. And so she felt empowered. I think one woman had amazing sex with her husband that was like connected. And so like they came back and it was like, man, like stepping into that femininity was a little bit scary, but it was also amazing. I felt alive, and I felt a part of me come to life that I haven't otherwise felt. So it can be little things. I think one woman did her hair, and I know that sounds petty, but I know that could trigger that, Rachel, but she felt beautiful, she felt sexy, and she felt it's part of that experience thing, right? So it's not just about doing your hair and designing a room. It's about showing up, intuitive. It's about practicing patience, being receptive, and empathetic. All of those things are feminine energy. So, Rachel, it's been awesome having you today. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this topic. Like I say, it's one of my favorite topics. So, man, we need more femininity, and we need to accept femininity more in the world. So, Tyler, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we clarify with you, Rachel. I don't know that we actually even finished answering all of your questions today. Do you have any last thoughts?
No, I'm just grateful for your time and for pushing me a little bit. It was awesome. Great.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing so openly what you shared, because I know that you're definitely not the only person who's going to relate to what you shared. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Awesome. If you guys liked this episode, then please rate and review. If we triggered anyone else out there and you want to come ask us some more questions, then please go to therapybros.com and just submit a form there and let us know that you want to come on and ask us some questions. So thanks again, Rachel, and have a good one, guys. We'll see you later.
Thanks.